I rang the bell every night. Not because I wanted to, not because I was brave, but because if I didn't, the town would forget who was gone. At first, it was only once or twice a week, a slow, heavy toll after sunset, echoing through the stone streets, bouncing off shuttered windows. People would stop what they were doing. Mothers would hush children. Men would lower their heads. Everyone listened. Everyone counted. One bell for one soul. That was the rule. My hands were clean back then. My heart was still soft. The bell tower stood at the center of the town like a watchful eye. From the top, I could see everything: the market square, the narrow alleys, the fields beyond the walls. I could also hear everything: coughs carried far in the quiet nights, prayers whispered behind doors, screams sometimes when the sickness took hold too fast, when the plague came. It did not announce itself with thunder or fire. It arrived quietly, like a guest who never left. First a trader, then a baker, then a child. By the time people realized this was no ordinary sickness, the bell was already ringing every night, and I was the one pulling the rope. The bell was older than I was, older than my father, older than most of the graves outside the walls. Its sound was deep and heavy, like the voice of the town itself. When I rang it, I felt the vibration travel through my arms, into my chest, into my bones. At first, I felt important, needed. That feeling did not last. Soon, the bell rang twice in one night, then 3 times, then so many times that counting felt pointless. I rang until my arms burned and my hands blistered. Below me, the town listened in silence, trying to recognize the rhythm, trying to guess whose name would be whispered tomorrow. I never spoke the names. That wasn't my job. My job was only the sound. During the day, I slept in short, broken pieces. When I woke, the air felt heavier. The streets were quieter. Shops closed one by one. Doors marked with chalk crosses multiplied like wounds. The bell tower became my world. Up there, I was alone. Down there, people were dying. I stopped visiting the market. I stopped visiting friends. I stopped eating properly. Food tasted like nothing. Smell became unbearable. The scent of sickness clung to everything: cloth, wood, skin. Even the wind carried it. Every evening, as the sun fell, someone would come to the base of the tower. Sometimes it was a priest. Sometimes a town guard. Sometimes no one at all, just a list slipped under the door. I never read the names aloud. I only nodded. Then I climbed. The steps were worn smooth by centuries of feet. I could climb them in the dark. I often did. At the top, I would wait until full night. Then I rang. At first, people cried when they heard the bell. Later, they just listened. Eventually, some didn't even look up. The worst nights were the quiet ones before the ringing. The pause. The waiting. Knowing that once the sound began, another life was finished. Knowing that tomorrow, another house would be empty. I began to recognize patterns. The bell sounded different on windy nights. On cold nights, the echo lingered longer. On rainy nights, it felt like the sound sank into the ground instead of the air. I started associating certain tones with certain streets, certain echoes with certain faces. That is when the guilt began. I would ring the bell and think, was it my sound that finished them? As if the act of ringing made death real. As if silence could have saved them. One night, I rang the bell for a man I had spoken to that very morning. He had joked about the weather, asked me if the bell ever made my arms sore. I laughed. That night, his name was on the list. After that, I stopped laughing. The bell became my punishment and my duty. I rang it with numb hands and an empty mind. Some nights, I forgot how many times I had already pulled the rope. I would stop, count the echoes fading into the distance, then ring again just to be sure. Sleep became dangerous. Dreams were worse. In them, the bell rang on its own. The rope moved without my hands. The sound followed me through streets full of faces I could not recognize, all staring, all waiting. People began avoiding me. I understood why. I was the sound of endings. When I passed in the street, conversations stopped. Children were pulled closer. No one wanted to look at the man who knew the bell so well. The priest stopped coming. The guard stopped knocking. Eventually, the list stopped too. People assumed I knew. Or maybe there was no one left to write them. So I rang the bell anyway, every night. Sometimes for no one. Sometimes for everyone. The repetition hollowed me out. Pull, release, listen, again, again, again. The rope burned grooves into my palms. The sound carved grooves into my mind. I stopped marking days. Time was only measured in echoes. One morning, I woke and realized I had not rung the bell the night before. Panic hit me like a blow. I ran to the tower, heart pounding, expecting anger, expecting blame. No one noticed. No one asked. That hurt more than any scream. So that night, I rang the bell longer than ever before. I rang until my arms shook, until the rope was slick with sweat and blood. I rang for the dead. I rang for the forgotten. I rang for the town that no longer listened. As the plague worsened, even the sound changed. The bell felt heavier, duller, as if it too was tired, as if metal could mourn. One night, after ringing, I stayed in the tower until dawn. I watched the light crawl back into the streets. I counted the doors that would never open again. I wondered how many bells would ring for me when my time came. The answer, I realized, was none. Bell ringers are not remembered. We are not heroes. We do not heal. We only announce. As weeks passed, the town shrank. Houses collapsed into silence. Grass grew between stones. Rats grew bold. The bell tower remained standing, watching over what was left. I kept ringing. Not for the town anymore. For myself. The sound proved I was still here. That I still existed. That someone remembered the dead, even if no one remembered me. One night, as I pulled the rope, my arms gave out. I collapsed against the wall, breath ragged, heart racing. The bell swayed above me, silent, for the first time since the plague began. The bell did not ring. I waited. Nothing happened. No cries, no shouts, no knock at the door. I understood then what the bell truly was. Not a warning, not a ritual, but a memory. As long as it rang, the dead were acknowledged. When it stopped, they vanished completely. So I stood up. And I rang it again, every night, until my hands failed, until my voice forgot how to speak, until the sound was the only thing left of the town that once lived below. If you had stood outside the walls in those days, you would have heard it. A single bell, ringing in the dark, long after the streets had gone quiet. That was me. And as long as I rang it, no one truly disappeared.